The rain in London always felt like it was trying to wash away the sins of the city, but some dirt just wouldn't come off. For Clara, a 24-year-old immigrant working as a cleaning maid in the prestigious Ethelgard Towers, the rain was just a background noise to her misery. She didn't mind the hard work. She was working 3 jobs to support her younger brother's medical studies back home. She minded the invisibility, the way the wealthy residents looked through her, as if she were part of the furniture. But no one was more invisible to, yet more terrified of, than Julian Vane. Julian Vane was the embodiment of old money and new cruelty. A 35-year-old venture capitalist who owned half the building and seemingly the soul of everyone in it. He was a man who measured worth in yachts and dismissed people with a snap of his fingers. On a Tuesday that started like any other, Clara was cleaning Julian's penthouse suite on the 50th floor. It was a sterile museum of expensive art and cold marble. As she polished a crystal vase, a piercing scream shattered the silence. "Where is it? Where is my watch?" It was Julian's fiancée, Chloe, a woman whose arrogance was only matched by her insecurity. She stormed into the room, face contorted. The diamond Patek Philippe. It was on this dresser. Clara froze, her cloth hovering over the vase. I don't know, ma'am. I didn't see it." Julian walked in, his presence darkening the room. He didn't ask questions. He didn't demand proof. He simply looked at Clara's worn-out uniform, her cheap shoes, and his decision was made. "Empty your pockets," he said, his voice a calm, terrifying low. "I didn't take it, sir. Please," Clara pleaded, her heart hammering against her ribs. She was innocent, but in this room, she was already guilty. Julian didn't wait. He grabbed her small cloth bag, dumped its meager contents on the marble floor, a half-eaten sandwich, a picture of her brother, a few coins, and then, from the side pocket, a glittering object tumbled out. It was the diamond Patek Philippe. A gasp escaped Chloe. "I knew it! You thieving little rat!" Clara stared at the watch, her world collapsing. Someone had framed her. She knew it. It was the only explanation. She had seen Chloe arguing with someone on the phone earlier, perhaps about a gambling debt, but it didn't matter what Clara knew. Julian picked up the watch, dusted it off with a silk handkerchief, and finally looked at Clara. For the first time, he really saw her, but only to enjoy her destruction. "You're fired," he said, his voice devoid of emotion. "And I'll make sure you never work in this city again. I won't call the police, not out of mercy, but because I don't want your filthy name associated with mine in a police report." Before Clara could say a word, 2 security guards, summoned by Julian's silent command, grabbed her. They dragged her through the opulent hallways, past the whispering residents, and threw her out into the rain. Her few belongings were scattered on the wet pavement. For 3 months, Clara lived in hell. Julian Vane had kept his promise. Her name was blacklisted from every cleaning agency, every restaurant, even every corner shop she applied to. Her small savings evaporated. She couldn't send money to her brother. She was on the verge of eviction, forced to eat only once a day. Every night, as she huddled under a thin blanket in her tiny bedsit, the same image played in her mind. Julian's cold, triumphant face. And the same thought fueled her. This is not how my story ends. It was in her darkest hour that she found her weapon. Not a knife, not a gun, but a piece of knowledge she had overlooked. When she was cleaning Julian's office, she had seen it. A confidential, half-shredded document about a shell company called Project Chimera. Clara wasn't just a maid. She was the top of her class in information technology back home before she had to leave to support her family. In the sterile quiet of those rich apartments, she had used their Wi-Fi to keep her skills sharp, learning Python and cybersecurity while they slept. She had an analytical mind that saw patterns where others saw chaos. She used the last of her money to buy a coffee in an internet cafe, the only place she could get a secure connection. Her fingers flew across the keyboard. She didn't want to steal his money. That would be too simple. She wanted to destroy his world. She began her silent war. Using the name Project Chimera as her starting point, she dove into the digital underworld. She found that Julian wasn't just a brilliant investor. He was a master of illegal market manipulation, using a network of fake companies to inflate stock prices and then dump them, wiping out the life savings of thousands of small investors. It was a classic, albeit highly sophisticated pump and dump scheme. For 2 years, Clara lived a double life. By day, she found temporary, low-paying cleaning jobs in the sketchiest parts of the city, barely surviving. By night, she was Nemesis, a digital shadow, systematically dismantling Julian's empire, one transaction at a time. She didn't just find his dirty secrets, she created a digital paper trail that would link him directly to the fraud. She slowly, methodically, transferred control of his various shell companies and hidden assets, not to herself, but to a newly formed, untraceable entity she called Karma Holdings. She watched from the digital background as Julian, oblivious to his impending doom, grew even more arrogant. He was planning the biggest acquisition of his career, a hostile takeover of a tech giant that would solidify his status as a billionaire. He had leveraged everything, every asset, every favor on this single deal. It was time to pull the trigger. The boardroom of Ethelgard Towers was a cathedral of power. Julian Vane sat at the head of the long mahogany table, flanked by his lawyers and board members. The final papers for the tech acquisition were ready. His fiancée, Chloe, was in the room, her hand now adorned with an even larger diamond. "This is it, gentlemen," Julian said, his voice a low purr. "Today, we don't just make money, we make history." Just as his pen hovered over the signature line, the main computer screen in the boardroom flickered. Julian ignored it, assuming it was a minor glitch. But the image didn't go away. Instead, it replaced his company logo with a simple, stark graphic of a broken shackle, glowing in crimson red. Then, a woman's voice, filtered through a digital distorter, but still carrying a chilling calm, echoed through the speakers. "A contract is only as good as the honor of the parties involved, Mr. Vane." The boardroom went silent. Julian's lawyer frowned. "Is this a joke? Who is this?" The screen shifted, displaying a terrifyingly detailed list of all of Julian's illegal transactions, complete with dates, bank accounts, and a confession letter he had written and deleted years ago, now restored from a hidden server. It was the digital blueprint of a crime that would send him to prison for life. "Your Project Chimera," the voice continued. "It didn't just create wealth. It created a massive debt, a debt of honor, a debt to thousands of families you ruined. And today, that debt is being collected." Panic erupted in the room. His board members, realizing they were accessories to a massive fraud, began to argue. Julian stared at the screen, his face draining of all color. "This is impossible. My systems are impenetrable." "Your systems were built on the belief that the people at the bottom are invisible, Mr. Vane," the voice said, a subtle edge of a smile in it. "You unrolled your carpet on their backs, never stopping to think they might one day pull it from under your feet." Then came the final blow. The screen showed a real-time transfer of all Ethelgard Towers' assets, all Julian's personal accounts, and the shares of his company, not into the tech acquisition, but into the bank accounts of Karma Holdings. And the owner of Karma Holdings, the screen finally displayed a simple, elegant corporate structure. At the top, the CEO's name, Clara Ivanov. A soft, clear voice replaced the distorter. The room gasped, and Julian Vane stopped breathing. He recognized that voice. It was the voice that had pleaded with him in his penthouse 3 years ago. The large mahogany doors to the boardroom opened. The security guards didn't stop her. They opened the doors wide for her. Clara walked in. She wasn't wearing a cleaning uniform. She was wearing a tailored dark navy suit. Her hair, once messy, was in a sleek, powerful bun. She carried herself with the calm grace of a queen who had just reclaimed her throne. She walked straight to the head of the table. Julian tried to stand, but his legs failed him. "You," Chloe stammered, pointing a trembling finger. "You're that thief." Clara looked at her, not with anger, but with a cool, detached indifference. Then she looked at Julian. "I didn't steal your watch, Mr. Vane," Clara said, her voice soft but filling every corner of the vast room. "I just waited for you to forget that the people you crush into dust, we don't just disappear. We become the foundation for a much larger building, one you will never be allowed to enter again." She didn't scream. She didn't call him names. She simply picked up his pen from the table, crossed out his name from the final acquisition document, and wrote her own. "Your company is mine. Your empire is mine. And from this day forward, Ethelgard Towers will be repurposed. It will not be a sanctuary for your corruption. It will be the headquarters for a foundation that helps the very people you ruined." She looked at the guards. "Please escort Mr. Vane and his fiancée out of my building, and do call the police this time. I have a very detailed report ready for them." As Julian was dragged out, not with dignity, but screaming like a child, Clara didn't even look at him. She turned to the terrified board members. "Now, shall we begin? We have a lot of wrongs to right." The rain outside London was still falling, but for Clara, it finally felt like it was cleaning. She hadn't just gotten her life back. She had created a world where she was no longer invisible. She had collected the untouchable debt, and the taste of that victory, it was sweeter than any diamond in the world.